Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever you are, whenever you are. Um, First of all, when I, in this video, talk about the UK, I am not talking about a specific country that is a part of the union of countries that the UK is. Meaning, I'm not addressing specifically England, I'm not addressing specifically Scotland, Northern Ireland, or Wales. Okay, I'm addressing the government, the way that the state works and how it works. I'm not talking about the specific ways that Scotland, for example, functions with its limited powers, but as it does, and neither am I talking about the other states of the union. I'm talking about the government itself. Okay, this is the first thing I have to say. Now, this comes from a comment that I made in a video from another YouTuber, specifically Michael Lambert, I think, about the entire question of Keir Starmer and the way he's running the government, all of these issues, all of these poor policies, a couple of good policies, but today I'm going to talk about it because I was asked also to make a couple of more videos about the UK, and I think it's appropriate right now to talk about it, given the situation and all that has happened recently, including more riots. Now, first of all, Keir Starmer is better than the Tories, yes, and he's certainly better than the lunatics in the Reform Party and Farage. Um, but in my view, I will be consulting my notes. That this is why you will see me looking up because I made the guide uh, so that this video is absolutely clear and it's easy to follow. So I will try not to run too much and just take things slowly. But the first thing I'm going to say is this: uh, Keir Starmer is not solely to blame for all that is happening and why the policies are not working or they are not being implemented. What do I mean by this? Okay, the UK has not, unlike other European countries, settled its issues with their colonial past. What do I mean by this? I mean, there is a lot of people, and I'm not saying it's everyone, okay? Like I said, I'm talking about the government and who's in charge, okay? So let's not confuse things. Let's not take things personally. This is the first thing I have to say. There are a lot of people inside of the UK, in the government, that are still thinking in a way and about a country that no longer exists. First, the UK had the colonies to feed its privileges and all of that. The imperial spending is the only way I can describe it, including the royals, of course, including all of those expenses with kings and queens and princes and lords and ladies and all of that crap. Okay, first, that's the first one. All of that spending, and with the privileges of MPs, the salaries of MPs, the amount of things they are able to put into their expenses, the way the political parties are funded with donations, all of that is imperial system. And then you have a Byzantine, meaning of something that is very bureaucratic. That's the meaning of a Byzantine system and ineffective system of running the country, of collecting taxes, of doing all the essential parts of the government. Basically, the only saying that works more or less well and now worse since Brexit is basically the army, and they are underfunded, understaffed, and even that is going away if they keep this up. And first, first when the empire collapsed, and it was a long time ago, okay, it was in World War I, after World War I. That is when the cracks began to show, and everything definitely ended. And then when it was World War II, it was already concluded. Okay, a lot of people like to say 1969 or this or that, but no, in that period it was already dying. Okay, when that ended, all of those taxes, all of that wealth that was being channeled into the United Kingdom vanished. Simple as this. But then there was still the Commonwealth, where the UK still had significant leverage, and that was used also to siphon wealth into the country. But then the countries that are part of the Commonwealth, especially we'll talk about these, but there are more, of course, Canada, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, when those countries began to, let us call it, trail their own path and diverting from the United Kingdom and creating other economical ties that they already had but accentuated. When that happened, what did the UK then had? It had the European Union, and it was acting as an emissary from the United States and as the gateway of world investment into Europe. And that was giving extra, extraordinary wealth and influence, even if indirect, to the country. But then that started to waver because the rest of the EU began to be sick of the way the UK was not obeying the certain regulations, not doing what everyone else was doing, not going along with the club, and especially because of the banking and the economical things. Because while other countries were regulating those types of business to avoid new crashes, I know I survived one, thankfully. Okay, and to avoid the amount of wealth that was being lost to the national countries due to those type of money laundering. It's the only we have to call it as it is, money laundering systems, and the fact that wealth was being removed from the country to go elsewhere. In Europe today, we have companies that are partially Chinese, for example, but yet the taxation is made here and the control is of the government. The government regulates it, and they shut up. If they want to operate here, they can operate. Europe is open to business. But the key issue here is the control of the government. And in the UK, the government has absolutely zero control. Because the entities that should regulate these types of things, like for example Ofcom in media, they don't work. Okay, there is a reason why Nigel Farage, an absolutely insignificant politician that has only brought defeats and all kind of damages to the UK, is on the news every day. Someone is paying for it. Okay, the man, he was considered rude, stupid, and ignorant by his fellow deputies or MPs, like you call them, in the EU Parliament. he was considered to be a very uh, subpar person. Okay, and we have a couple of them right now in the EU Parliament. Make no mistake about it. Like that deputy that was screaming nonsense when the German when Ursula von der Leyen was presenting her speech of the State of the Union just a couple of days ago. But the issue here is, and this is not me speaking, okay? This is not little old me telling this. If you go back to the news, all over the news in Europe, when he was in the parliament and the way that he acted, you will see how despised that man was. And he was not despised because he was speaking the truth or fighting back for sovereignty. No, he was despised because he was an idiot, because he acted like an idiot, because he talked over people, because he never recognized when he was wrong, because he treated his colleagues with arrogance and stupidity. That is why he was not well known inside of the EU, because of his behavior and his lack of professionalism. You can, I can tolerate a politician that has completely different ideas than mine as a voter, but they have to be polite, they have to be civil, and have to have the ability of discussing things without turning into absolute morons with false arguments. Just like that guy that was shot in the USA and now they are turning him into a martyr. Okay? This is not what we want. I want boring politicians. I want competent people that know the state has to function and this is the way it's going to function. That is why we elect them. And that is why we have democracies. But in the UK, you don't even have that. You have a form of democracy, but I won't be addressing that in this video. But because right now we are talking about Keir Starmer and the reasons why he has failed in many areas of governance. Now, Europe has moved on. Okay, the gateway that was the UK is now distributed amongst other European countries. Okay, it has affected the entire entry of companies and products into Europe, from Portugal to Berlin to Warsaw. Okay, it has changed completely. It was actually very easy for this to happen, and all European countries saw that. They saw that the UK actually is not needed. And even if there are some countries, I am a person that believes, for example, me believes that the place of the UK is inside of the EU. So, but even if there are persons like me and politicians like me, let's call it like that, they are not willing to lose the amount of investment that we are receiving, the amount of taxing, the amount of increase in taxing and in money in the state that can be used to better our conditions of life, our salaries, all of that. We are not willing to trade that to give it to the UK. No. The UK to enter in the EU, the rules are very clear. But number one, the EU must be willing to discuss that. And in number one, two, the UK actually has to be committed to entering the EU. It's not just a couple of politicians talking about it or a couple of people. Because how do we not know that you are going to enter, solve your problems, and then F off or betray us at the first signs of any kind of trouble? You have to think about it. The English themselves say, "Fool me once, shame on you. Shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me." This is the logic that we have to do. But talking about the specific situation, let's not consider any kind of rejoining. What could Mr. Starmer do? He should have had the political courage to not pander to the likes of Farage. He has to do he has to do let's reduce this to the most basic of it all. Two areas: media and taxing. He has to tax wealth. No, they won't go away. And if they go, others will replace them. This is the first thing you have to understand. If there is a profit to be made, others will replace them. So he has to tax property. And I'm not talking about, even here they are talking about ending the property tax over, for example, for normal houses, so to speak, okay, for apartments and all of that, houses that are not valuable, that just houses where people live. Even here they are talking about ending it, and have been reducing the taxing over it. But we are not going to end the taxing over property that is worth a lot. And why is that? Because those people, they bought the property. Okay, you may say this. They already bought the property. Now they are going to have to pay taxes of it. What is this? And blah, 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 blah. No, my friend. That property is in the state. That property is occupying a part of the state. And especially if you're a foreigner, you have to pay taxes over it. All of them. This is not about taxing the property of the low and middle classes, of the normal person that has a little corner to call his own. This is about taxing the rich. And while the masses are incited to go along with Farage and other ones, and I will talk about this and why this is happening. While this is happening, the end game here is to not allow the state to get its fair share from the wealth of the rich. And this is not socialism, this is not communism, this is actually capitalism. Okay? I don't consider myself left wing. I cannot pander to some of the left's whims and desires. What I pander about, what I fight about, is fairness. Okay? I see no issues that a person that is smart enough, that works enough to have wealth. The question here is when it becomes obscene wealth and when that wealth is used to corrupt the government and corrupt the state, corrupt the society. Okay? And to create situations like private beaches and all of that shit. My question is that. And right here in my country I've been fighting against some of those things. The same way I'm fighting here for you. And I'm also fighting for myself. Okay. But the key issue here is to tax, for example, it's not to tax the farms, it's to tax the large estates. That way, those estates can either serve, can either serve for the farmers to use. They will have to divide them in smaller plots or create companies to explore them. But they cannot be that a single person is entitled to have a huge estate, okay, not producing anything or producing whatever they wanted to produce, and to gain whatever profits they obtained from it and not pay taxes over it. And you can do it. We do it here. They cross-check everything in the tax department. And then if you have more, there are scales of wealth, and you are either charged no taxes at the end of the year. You even sometimes receive money from the state because they first collect the taxes and then in the end of the fiscal year they do They do the accounting and they decide if this person has to pay to the state, does not have to pay anything or receive anything, or has something to receive. They send a check to your home. Well, in this case, right now, they deposit it directly into your account. Okay, but you pay taxes on houses, on cars, because the cars are using the road. This is another thing people don't understand. I don't agree with the amount of the money that is being that we have to pay for the car to be on to use the roads. I don't agree with that, and I also think that the amount should be smaller, and also the roads have to be better. The conditions have to be better because I'm paying taxes for that. This is very important because when you are paying taxes, you have the right to claim responsibility from the entities, and they know that, and they know that you will complain, and you know it will have an actual effect on it. They know it because it does, because those types of things they work. Sometimes they go a bit slower, but they work. Okay, they work. This is no paradise, of course. And you will say there are people that escape the tax. Of course there are. There are everywhere. The issue here is when you make it morally accepted to do that. What Starmer has to do. This is my humble opinion, okay? But it's not just my opinion, it's the opinion of a lot of economists, a lot of state persons, a lot of politicians, is this. He has to tax those people. He cannot continue to do what he's doing right now. And what he's doing right now. You, the normal people, working your day-to-day job, or retired or whatever, buying your food, buying your energy, buying your water, using public transportation or using your own cars or whatever, you are paying all of those taxes indirectly in the price of the goods and services that you acquire. Okay, and he's canceling uh, subsidies and taxes that are needed for some people to survive. This is what he is doing. He's taking the brunt of that taxing and dropping it on the low and the middle class. Why? Because the low and the middle classes have no options except to pay. While that is happening, what effect does this have? This has the effect of the wealthier getting even more wealthier because they're not paying taxes. And then they say, oh, they are providing jobs, they are taking care of property. No. You want to know what happens to a property here that is abandoned, for example? The city halls take over them. That person is paid for the price of the meter or of terrain in the area it is, and the state takes over it and does whatever they want with it. Turn it into to housing, turn it into a museum, a hotel, rent it to a private company, sell it to a private company for them to do something about it. Okay, it's like this. And if you try to make a cartel to, let's say, you only charge this, I only charge that, so that we all get our profits, that is a crime. And that is a reason why you have been seeing a lot of manifestations here in Portugal and in Spain also due to the property, especially in tourist areas. And this is a serious issue that I don't know how it is in Spain, but around here they are discussing it in the assembly. And this is an issue that the government will have to solve in next year because they promised they would. And this passes for imposing more taxing on those that housing. It passes by things like city halls that are already doing it, that they are illegalizing Airbnbs, that shit. Okay, they are illegalizing all of that. They are making it very hard and very taxing for them to do it, and basically pushing it aside because we need houses. We need houses for people to live in. Housing is also a problem in Europe. It's a problem right next to the UK in Ireland. And here also, they will have to invest money in constructing what you call social housing, meaning neighborhoods that are built by the city halls, whatever, to large people. Because we are also having a lot of population shifts. We have an interior that has large urban centers that need housing and that need people. But then you have villages and towns that don't need that much investment, but they should have some investment so that don't die off. Because we need farming, we need all of that. And then you have in the coastline a problem that we always have had. This is a problem of Portugal due to the way the country was built. We have a lot of enormous city centers, cities that need a lot of investment, both in housing, in public transportation, in health. Okay, this is the cause of many of the issues that we are having. But I will make a video about this if anyone wants to hear about it. Okay, but right now we are talking about the UK, and what Starmer should have done is to change this policy. I'm not saying for him to be radical. Look, he just would just have to start charging, uh, start applying some of the laws in the cross-checking of data. Start charging property. You want to have a house in a chic neighborhood in the West End or whatever. I don't know. I don't know any neighborhoods in London. In London, okay, then you are going to pay. You are going to pay, for example, 4 times more of taxing over your property, not the tenant, the owner of the property. You are going to pay 4 times more than anyone in rural England, for example. Okay, and then, for example, all of those taxing doesn't matter if it goes to a foreign company before they say, "Oh, I'm going to declare my taxes in my home country." No, 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 no. You are making a profit here. You are going to have to pay the taxes here before you run off. And the same with banking, the same with companies. And they say, oh, this will kill a lot of companies. Well, let it kill. At least you will have the money that belongs to you. Because while you are supporting Farage in tractors, pretending to be the farmer, and other people, like I think Piers or whatever the name of the guy is, the guy with the cars that had some kind of show with cars. I'm always forgetting the name of the man. While you are doing that, they are profiting and they are not paying taxes. And you seem look a small time farm in the UK, and I know this from what I read in the law, does not pay taxes. Only those with large farms pay taxes. So when they are saying you are killing the traditional family farm, no, 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 no. What they are doing is taxing the ones. I don't even know how the state of that law is right now, so I won't speak more about it. But around here, farmers gather in corporations. It's the easiest way to do it. And they are forced to be professional about it. They are forced to run a farm as it should as a business. Because if you have a small plot of land, okay, and you plant some carrots and you have some fruit trees or whatever, you just pay a small amount for owning of property tax. Okay, that is the real the saying about it. Okay, but if you are running it as a business, then you should pay it as a business. Every business has to be charged taxes because every business is obtaining wealth on the state. It doesn't matter if it's a private company from wherever in the world it is. Okay, there are British companies that are operating here in Portugal, they are paying their taxes here. Okay. And whatever profits they do, they will have to pay taxes here because our taxing system won't allow them to leave. If, for example, it's a German company, then the amount of taxes that they have to pay here is completely different. But the key issue here is this: they can either declare their taxing here in Portugal or they can declare it in Germany. Wherever they declare it, it goes to the taxing then, the percentage goes straight to the country, and the country pays into the EU budget. So we all profit. So if, for example, a German company is operating here in Portugal, they are going to pay taxes. Imagine it's a tourist company, okay, with hotels and all that. They are going to pay taxes on property, on services, on all of that, on utilities. They are going to pay it all here. And then their profit, they can either declare it here or in Germany, whatever it suits them. But the key issue here is that they're going to have to do it. And that money will indirectly benefit us all. Okay? If they have employees and the employees are working here, they also have to be registered in the social services here, in the tax services here, and all of those taxes flow into the government. All of those contributions flow into the social security network. And then you have countries outside of the EU, like Switzerland and Norway, that also have systems in which they also can operate like that. But to talk about, like I heard some people in the comment sections of some couple of videos say, we want a Norway deal or we want a Switzerland deal, it should be absolutely infantile because those agreements with Norway, with Switzerland, they have completely different parameters from any potential deal with the United Kingdom. They have historical, political, economical, even ethnic reasons to exist. They, for example, the agreement that Switzerland has is exclusive to Switzerland. It cannot be replicated in that way. Maybe a couple of aspects can, but it cannot be replicated that way. The agreement that Norway has also cannot be replicated. It's their deal, their agreement. It's completely different. Look, you look into the EU, and even EU countries have specific agreements with countries outside of the EU, and that have been kept because they do not go against the regulations of the EU and our commitments to the EU regulations. For example, Portugal has agreements with the United Kingdom, for example. Do you think there is not a reason why you take care of all your paperwork even before you set foot into Portugal? Don't you know that there is an agreement because of that? Don't you know that passport control in Portugal is faster because we have reciprocal agreements? That agreement does not offend our EU regulations, so we keep it. This is a simple example, okay? But instead of playing with all of those avenues, instead of, for example, aligning the food standards with the EU, instead of, for example, this is something a friend of mine told me that, for example, when it comes to food standards, the UK could issue a simple thing like, for example, banning the use of these and that pesticides that are not allowed in the EU, and then go to the EU Commission and say, look, our oranges no longer have this pesticide, they are not only produced by this way, so we should not have so much paperwork about it. And if the EU thinks that it's sufficient what they are doing, they will monitor it. But then oranges, this is a dumb example, will have much less paperwork to enter in the EU. They will still have paperwork because it's outside of the EU. You cannot end that. This is an example. Okay, the entry of people. The UK has the 90 days rule. Why not agree with all of the EU countries to allow, for example, British citizens to have work visas inside of the EU in a simplified way, and offering work simplify work visas of EU citizens into the UK. This is all possible. This is all inside of the TCA. This is all things that you can improve upon. And he has not done it. He has made a tour across Europe. He has made a couple of good decisions that have yielded good results. He has invested massively in supporting Ukraine, giving money, giving weapons. He has to be praised for that, but you don't see him getting praise for that. You only see him praised for the work. And this comes from a person that considers the man a disappointment. But still, I have to recognize what is good about what he has done. Now, the other issue that they have is the media. And this is not about ending free speech or any of that. I have free speech. I'm talking here with you. The issue here is to prevent and stop misinformation and fake news, and having an entity that actually has power. And for example, the system that we have in, I think, Portugal, in Spain, and France also has it, and Germany also has a similar system. It's so simple. You have the law and clear parameters. And then you have, first of all, the first people that are responsible to monitor the quality of the information that is provided are the reporters themselves and the companies. Okay, the TV stations, the newspapers, whatever. All of them are organized. All of them are organized into specific institutions. The reporters have a reporters order. The companies, they are also in an association, and they all together they decide when someone is breaking the law. And why is that? Because that action means that all of them can be fined. Hmm? Then you have the state. The state monitors it. The state takes in the complaints by the citizens. And whenever a company or a reporter goes off the law, fine. Fine them. And depending on what they have done, they can be fined, they can be suspended, they can be banned from ever working in the business, and they can even be jailed. And this means that, for example, a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, there was a company that was not obeying one of our laws that states that you can only advertise uh, alcohol, I think, and gambling after 11 or 11:30. It's something like that. Only after that hour you can have short advertises on. Excuse me, my allergies. Sorry. Advertise those types of products on the TV, because after that hour usually the kids are in bed. Okay, it's basically what this is. And one company was trying to do it. One TV station, I won't say which one, because that is a solved business and it's none of my business. Okay, it's between them and the state. And they got fined. And they said, oh, we can pay the fine. So the state tripled the fine. It's like this here. You cannot allow them to break the law and even paying the fine having a profit. That is how you do it. This is why Mr. Trump is so worried about the fines that Europe is applying to US media. Because we don't find them fixed amounts that they can easily pay and continue to do whatever they want. We find their revenue, percentages. This means that the company will lose X percentage of their profit. And also, we jail people. Like that guy from Telegram, he was jailed in France. I don't know how his case is. And we ban platforms. We ban them. Oh, you want to use a VPN to use it, so your issue, your problem. But we ban them. And then we have comedian acts like that House representative hearing that we saw, where they're saying we are breaching U.S. law. Who gives a fuck? Who cares about U.S. law? This is Europe. And the same thing the UK should think about it. Or we will lose millions in revenues. You think Amazon will leave the country if you stick it to them? I think most of their operation is already in the Netherlands. So if they leave, well, they leave. I'm sure there are plenty of companies in the UK that can be created and provide the same service. More jobs for the UK, more profit for the UK. Even this platform where we are, YouTube, if they don't get their shit together, like we say, they are going to be replaced by something else. And from what I am seeing, I don't know how long this situation will last. Maybe, maybe they will do something like, for example, TikTok, that now has an exclusive, pardon me, TikTok for the US, and they will divide themselves. The YouTube for Europe and YouTube for the US with different parameters. Actually, this is what I think it will happen. Not only to YouTube, but to other companies. Because those companies, they want profit, okay? And they don't care about politics. They just, if they have to operate in Europe, they have to follow these rules, and they know none of this entire theater with Trump will do them any good, except in the US, where they have to continue to pander to him. This is what will happen. Companies are companies. Money flows where it has to fall. Okay, it's basic capitalism, something I would assume any American would know. But talking about Mr. Starmer, he could do all of this. He could access all of the EU flagships like Horizon, just paying their due, and this is normal. And let me explain this again because I already explained it in another video, but I will explain it here again. All of the EU countries contribute to the budget of the EU Horizon if they are participating in it. Okay? So, if an exterior actor comes in, and it can be any country, it can be New Zealand, Australia, the US, okay, the UK, whatever country is accepted to participate in the Horizon program, they have to pay a percentage to the budget. They are not a part of the group. They are not a part of the EU, hence they pay to the budget. No one is stealing money from the UK. No one is punishing the UK. No one is ostracizing the UK. No, we are simply putting the rules quick. Or would you expect, for example, me right here in Portugal, that are paying my taxes, that indirectly go to the EU budget, that then indirectly go to the Horizon program? I was supposed, for example, to pay for my taxes for the companies or private citizens that inside of your country are using the Horizon program, are receiving the grants and are receiving the investment and all of that. Do you understand the logic? I do. It's so simple that anyone can understand it. But the issue here is this. I was talking about the media and how Starmer should impose a serious change in the media laws, addressing things like fake news, addressing things like misinformation, addressing all of that, and simply impose real measures. Ofcom is like a traffic cop without a uniform, just with a little whistle to whistle to the car. Stop, stop, don't go so fast. This is what they are. They are absolutely useless. So you would have to impose serious laws to prevent the existence of things like GB News. GB News is a propaganda. It's a propaganda mouthpiece. And I'm not saying there isn't a place for those types of people, but there is not a place for those types of people in the news. Around here, I have said this again and again, and I will say it again ad nauseum until people understand that each and every channel has a position or a speech pro this or pro that. They can be pro whatever they want, but the facts don't change. If I see, for example, in one channel that a blue car hit a yellow car, I like to use this example. In another channel, I will also see a blue car hit a yellow car. In this channel, they might say it has been known that yellow cars go a bit faster, so it's natural that they hit the blue car. And in the other channel, you might see, oh, blue cars are much too slow, so yellow cars are always hitting them. But the facts are there. The facts are there. The truth is there. And this is a difference. It's very different from to watch news and know what is happening, and then you accept or you don't accept the position of the new or the reporters. There are a couple of channels here that are completely idiots, in my opinion. But this is my opinion, okay? Other people might like their opinions. But the key issue here is that the facts are there. Okay, I can see it. I can know what is happening in reality. In the UK and in the US, you don't. They change. Instead of providing facts, they are providing you narratives. And narratives that are according to the ones that are paying them, that are paying their salaries. Did you see what Trump just did in the US with Kimmel and with Colbert before of that? That is what is happening in the UK for decades now. Someone is behind, is paying you. How else can you explain that Mr. Farage, that is an MP from Clacton, that is never there, that had a failed UKIP, that supported a failed Brexit, that supported all of that, is still in the news and potentially, in his own words, the next Prime Minister of the UK? Like he was parading around and making a fool out of your country in the House hearing thingy. You have to think about these things. But the issue is here is this: you have the lower and a part of the middle class that is frustrated, that is lacking housing, that is lacking in employment, that is lacking education, and they are easy prey for these people. Okay, you cannot blame exclusively on them that they are angry and they are lashing out. You can say, but they are lashing out against the migrants when they should be lashing out against the politician. Okay, but you have to understand this. If a person is not educated enough to know it, how can you expect them to do the right thing? And this is something that has been going on for ages in the UK. I spoke with some friends from the UK that had no idea of the amount of crimes the UK had committed in its colonial past and what the offenses and the betrayals that he had done, for example, to Portugal. They had no idea about it until they read a Portuguese history book. Because in our history books, we see it all. We see all the crimes and all of the virtues of our forefathers, let's call it like this, okay? I give this example always. We know, for example, that Afonso Albuquerque was a brilliant navigator, a brilliant strategist, an explorer, a tradesman, a general, an admiral in this case, a genius military man. We see all of that. But we also see he was cruel and cold. In his campaign against the Mughals in India, he gave them the option: either let us establish our trading posts, and for our boats to safely sail in and out with our goods, to sell our goods, to buy your goods, or it's going to be, we are going to have problems. And he said no. And so Afonso spent a couple of, I think, a year or two or whatever, it was a couple of years, bombing and destroying cities all over the coasts of India, burning cities, pillaging them, piracy, all of that. Until finally the mogul said, "Okay, okay, you can have your trading posts." We know this. We also know that our sailors, okay, they used to go to Guinea, I think that's how you say it, okay, and then they established themselves there. They even married the wives, the daughters of local leaders and kings, and then both of them, those leaders and the Portuguese, okay, they engage in slavery, a business that they held until the British, the French, and the Dutch took over the business. But we know that. You don't. You have no idea. Look, you don't know something as simple as tea and biscuits at 5 o'clock was not a British habit. It was taken by a Portuguese queen that introduced your king, when she married him, to the benefits of a weekly, at least a weekly bath, when she famously said something like, "Sir, you are not going to get into my bed with those dirty feet," and told him to go wash yourself before you enter in my bed. Okay? And that then at 5 o'clock, like it was a tradition in Portugal, like it still is a tradition in Portugal, she would have some tea that she liked. We are more of a coffee drinking culture due to the influence of Italy too. Okay, that's another story. And to have small sandwiches, okay, some cakes at 5 o'clock, because it was the right time to have a meal, so that you would not fill yourself up with big dinners before you go to bed. You don't know that fish and chips. It was because the British saw the Spanish and the Portuguese sailors frying fish and potatoes that were cheap, Dutch sheep, that the Spanish introduced from the Americas, and then the Portuguese also started to using them quite quickly. And when we were in ports where the British people were, they saw our sailors frying our potatoes in our ships, or like you call them, our potatoes in our fish, sorry, and then eating it. You have no idea about that. You don't you don't know, for example, that the famous beaker or café here in Portugal comes from Italy with the espresso machines and all of that, and with the habit of drinking an espresso. That comes from Italy. Just like you don't know, and the Italians know, and they say and they talk about it, that the Portuguese were the ones that introduced rice into Italy, or let's call it the use of rice in culinary dishes and all of that. You might not even know that Portugal is the country that produces and consumes more rice in Western Europe. Still to this day, rice is a basic staple. You don't know that we went to Japan and that we brought things from there and that we left things there, like the castella cake, for example, like the famous tempura, which is basically everything battered and fried, to be simple, and that we brought things like the radishes from Japan and the use of other culinary dishes, and that then we brought some things from India, and we took some things from to India from Japan, and from India to Japan, and all of these connections, and then you end up with a history that is nothing, that is a patchwork of nothing, because you have to talk about the good and the bad of your culture. And that is another serious discussion that the UK still has not had. You need to discuss these things. You need to teach kids in school, so that those kids that are now rebelling because they are kids in their mind, they would know a bit and they would understand this guy is fooling us. He's telling us all the migrants coming in is to blame from this and from that, and the migrants are doing this and that, when we have to blame the government. The government is not doing their job. And why are they not doing their job? Because they left Europe. Look, wait a minute. This was the guy that was telling us that we should leave Europe. And now he's talking this shit again? Get out of here, you bum. Educated people. You don't need to be a egghead or something like that. You just need to have some education and common sense. Are people in the midst of all of that group genuinely evil and genuinely trying to make other people suffer? Yes, they are. But 90% of them certainly are not. And if you are left with those 10% of evil people, well, they can continue to scream in the dark, who gives a crap. But the UK has to have this serious discussion. Because, and I tell you this, if you vote in reform, if reform reaches any kind of political influence, my friends, you will find that the doors to Europe will be shut. You will have no cooperation, and you might even lose whatever you have now. Because I guarantee that everyone is very attentive to what is happening. Everyone is very attentive to the influence and the attempts of corrupting our governments that is going on. And I am very afraid of a very repressive answer to this. It will be bad for everyone, especially those in the outside of the EU. But to conclude, the UK needs to settle the way the government taxes wealth, taxes companies, the way that the government regulates the media. You you have to take control of it. It's not the end of free speech. Okay? Anyone here can exert their right of free speech. The key issue here is you cannot incite crime. You cannot incite uh, evil against others. You have to be careful to what you say. And being careful about what you say, it's not stifling or gagging your free speech. It's telling you to be a citizen, to be a decent person, to not go like Mr. Musk into the airways and spew all the shit that comes out of his mouth, okay? Or like Mr. Farage and all of those people. They are fooling you. Anyone that tries to impose a narrative to you that doesn't allow you to think about things. For example, have you questioned yourself why are so many people illegally in the UK? Here, you have to have social, taxing, residence, job to be able to be inside of the EU. You have to have that. If you don't have that, you have to leave. If you come in illegally, you can try to solve your situation if it's solvable, but you're going to leave. And we don't stop people that want to work to come into our country. We control them because we have to control it. But you don't control nothing. You just stand in the beach screaming at boats, and then you stuck people into hotels instead of taking them to a center. See why are those people there, taking care of their business, and then if they cannot stay in your country, then you have to deport them at your own expenses and not the EU expenses. Because this is what you were doing. You were letting anyone enter because you were getting a profit out of it, and then you were dumping them all in the EU, and then they will end up in France, in Germany, in Spain, in Portugal, and we would have to take care of your business. This is exactly what the Tory government was trying to do. And this was what they were planning to do after Brexit. They will say, oh, we will just shut the borders and then you will have to deal with it. And what they found is anything that passes through the EU to the UK, it goes. Because we are not going to spend our money with your problems. You have to solve your problems. And this is a reality that Mrs. Tama has been unable to say to the people because of a lot of issues, okay? I understand it. Political, the media, all of this. But all this time went by and he still has not addressed it. And I think maybe his government will fall. And then I honestly don't know what will come after it. But if I was a British citizen, I would be very worried. This is all I have to say. Okay. Well, this has gone long enough. 1 hour of ranting, for God's sake. Sorry. Uh, I thank you all for having the patience to listen to me. And please fact check everything I say. Fact check it. Okay. And leave me your opinion in the comment section. And I hope to catch you all in the next one. Okay. Bye. Thank you.